T-minus 3 minutes and counting. Latency check. Calibration initiated. Confirm. Lockdown.
Confirmed. Lockdown.
Comms check. Good. Video signal. Good. Audio signal. Good. IFB check. Good. T-minus 2 minutes and counting. Sync check. Good. Latency. Good.
Drone squad activated. Begin tracking.
Begin tracking. Communication satellite activated.
America coming online now. Position lock on Randy. Tracking Curtis. Intercept Tommy.
T-minus 1 minute and counting. T-minus 30 seconds and counting.
Everyone stand by. We're ready to go live.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Roll the intro. It's showtime.
Hi everybody, and thank you for joining us today on the Drone Owners Network. I'm your host, Curtis. Also joining me today is Randy Foster down in Houston, Texas, and over there in New Jersey, Mr. Tommy Polo from Polo Vision. This is it, Season 1, Episode 1. We've got a great show lined up for you with a very special guest, Jeff Overall from PolarPro. It's time to get this show started.
Charge your batteries, lock in those props, and check that airspace. Join us live. This is the Drone Owners Network.
Boom! We are live. You guys ready for this thing? Let me turn this off here. That's enough of that. Guys, what's up?
We are here.
We're here. Yeah.
Here it is.
This has been an adventure. I got to tell you guys, seriously. Let me just back up. Okay, first of all, Jeff, how you doing? Our special guest here.
Hey.
We're going to get you in a minute here, Jeff.
Cool.
4 weeks ago, Randy, myself, and a couple other guys were doing a Google Hangout, and we were talking about products, and we were comparing the products that we all had. And I was sitting there thinking the whole time, why aren't we putting this in groups? And it just seemed like a simple idea just to put it in the group. And we started talking to more people about this, and we thought, wow, this would be really great. Let's get some professionals involved in this. And I say professionals, they really are professionals. And we started talking about professional equipment to do this stuff, like broadcast equipment. And then we started expanding the team that we now have in place. And the technical difficulties were like I could not believe. So this has been a chore to get it get it live. In fact, I'm going to say some of the people that are involved in this, and I want to shout out some names here. One of them told me not to say anything, but Abby Lai is going to be here. Corey Jacobs, he's supporting us. Stig Idesall, Timothy Huxall, Troy Graham, James Jackson is our producer-director. He could not be here for the very first show. He's one of the ones that's going to be setting up all the switching systems and that will run the show, our later shows, not this show. He could not be here for this show. But, yeah, it's been, in fact, let me grab this. I pushed to have this show on. Nobody wanted to do it. I've got equipment that I haven't even opened yet that we're going to be using to help run this show. And I started to open it up today and hook it up, and I thought, no, let's just make this show happen, and we can add this stuff later. But anyway, I digress. So let me check my show notes here and see what I got. Okay, I mentioned everybody's name, got all those guys out of the way. Be sure and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. That's important. We're going to be doing this show every Saturday, 3 p.m. So you want to be sure and hit that subscription button there.
3 p.m. Pacific, we might add.
Yeah, 3 p.m. Pacific and 6 p.m. Eastern Time, which is where Tommy's at over there. By the way, we also have an email address for you. So if you want to email us, you can email us at droneownersnetworklive@gmail.com. Now, it's also, I'll put it in the show notes over there, droneownersnetwork@gmail.com. And finally, I want to talk about some of the stuff we're going to be doing on the show. There are a couple of things that we're interested in doing, like today's tech tip. The tech tip will basically be a lot of stuff. A lot of times there's something that will work if you do this and do that and shift this. It's kind of always been the tradition in the drone industry that was not designed for that, but guess what? It does it kind of thing. And we know a lot of those things, and we're going to be sharing those in our daily tech tips, or not our daily, our weekly tech tip, which I got a cool graphic to go with that, by the way. Man, I got a graphic for everything.
Curtis is the man with the graphics.
I know. I was furiously rendering for like the last 2 weeks of all this stuff that I came up with. But we're going to do that. We're going to do like the awesome video of the week. We're looking for video submissions from you guys to come in, and basically it's like a 10 to 15 second video clip, just something that's just totally amazing that'll just blow everybody's mind. Email it to us at droneownersnetwork.com or droneownersnetworklive@gmail.com, and we'll get that on the show and give you guys some credit for that. We would really, really like to help promote you guys. And who knows, down the line, you know, as we get bigger and bigger, we may get some prizes we can kind of give away for that stuff. And then the man sitting over here, the man who's patiently waiting while we do all this technical stuff, Mr. Tommy Polo is going to be doing some news stories. In fact, my producer's in my ear right now telling me Tommy, it's all you. You got some news stories for us, some things that are going on?
Story now?
Yeah, let's do them now.
All right, let's do one. What do we got? Well, first, unfortunately, it's a bit of sad news, but we are going to have to announce the demise and the discontinuation of production of the Phantom 4 Pro.
No.
The one I just bought. Dang, that's yeah, great. So, of course, the Phantom 4 Pro version 2, which was the one I got because it had the mechanical filters, or the mechanical shutter, I'm sorry, and all the sensors and all the features and everything else, I'm figuring, all right, you know, I can't do an Inspire, so I'm going to do this. This is the latest. This is the greatest. And then I get this news, and it's like, great, all right, well, we'll do something.
Well, Tommy, the good news is it's still a great drone.
It is still a great drone, and it is actually still available for a little while, like while supplies last, that kind of thing. But production is halted. They're not kicking any more out. They're not making any more. They're not supporting anymore. It's a shame. It is a great drone. I love the thing. I think it's amazing. Coming from an FPV standpoint, when I started flying this thing, I'm thinking like it's a flying camera. It's going to fly itself. No big deal. The thing's impressive. It's amazing what it does with the obstacle avoidance, the return to homes, everything that it does is absolutely amazing. And it's sad. It's sad that they're going to discontinue it, but they got to do what they got to do. But it's still unclear as to why, like what is the actual reason for it? Is it because of that whole fraud thing that they had going on? They don't know. Are they going to put the Phantom 5 out? I doubt it, but we can hope. But I don't think that's the case. I think when you go on their website and you click on the Phantom Force, it immediately tells you that it's no longer production. Yeah, we have a whole bunch of great other products, see below, and it's got a picture of a Maverick 2. The Maverick 2 is a great drone. The Enterprise, the Zoom, they're great, and they're doing. The more I talk to people, and the more I hear people talk, people are doing anything with the Maverick that the Phantom has done, save the cinematic video part of it, which I guess is going to end up being passed on to the Inspire because that's where that thing shines. But now, to me, there's no in between there. You got a Mavic, and you got the Inspires, but that Phantom was a nice buffer in between the two. But now,
So I don't have anything solid to add to. I mean, solid information, but I have heard backroom talk from industry insiders, and the two things that were said was a larger Mavic or a smaller Inspire is what is needed in the market right now.
I can see that. I can see that being
I sold my Inspire 1. I hated selling it, but I sold it to a guy who was a real good friend of mine, and he had crashed his, and he's got his 107, and he needed to keep working and stuff like that. So I felt first of all, I was handing it off to a friend that's in need, and I knew that it was going to a good set of hands. I knew the situation behind the crash. It was kind of an unavoidable situation. So I kind of, I didn't have a problem with that, but I do miss flying the Inspire. I mean, as a bird that just takes off and the arms go up, it's really, really awesome. But for convenience, man, that Mavic, the thing folds up. It fits in your bag. And even if it was slightly larger to accommodate, a more, a larger or better camera system, I would probably prefer the Mavic, a larger Mavic myself. Right. Brandy, you got to...
Yeah, so I've had several Phantoms, and I've also got several Mavics, and I've got an Inspire. I like them all. They just all serve a different purpose. But I will say that Mavic 2 Pro is currently my go-to and my favorite, and it hits a lot of check boxes, and it does it well. So I don't know, man. It's really impressive for the money, for the size, everything about it. It's pretty rocking little aircraft.
Jeff, do you have a favorite drone?
Yeah, I guess it depends what the scenario is. If we're doing commercial work, usually the Inspire 2 comes with us. If we're just shooting YouTube videos or tutorials or like just taking it with me on trips, the Mavic 2 is for sure the go-to. And we've got the Phantom 4 Pro too, but that thing pretty much always just sits in the middle because it's either commercial work with the Inspire 2 or traveling with the Mavic 2. So the Phantom 4 kind of gets left out in our arsenal. It sits on the shelf a lot.
And for a lot of the professional guys that are out there, that makes a lot of sense too. So that may be another reason why they're kind of dropping the line, is they see so many guys buying the Inspire 2 for the really pro work where they really need the quality. And then if you're just running around and grabbing photos and stuff, you're just taking the Mavic 2 Pro or the Zoom or the Enterprise. And I don't know, the fact that they're developing the Enterprise makes it interesting for me, and makes me lean towards the idea that a larger Mavic, I think, is in the works.
So I bought the wrong drone.
Fingers crossed. Sorry. What else you got for us, Salmi?
What else we got? Well, if we stick on the subject of the Phantom Maverick, especially the Enterprise. Now, the Enterprise is doing big things. There's people, especially in Australia, this is the Phantom stuff, we're done with them. The people, what was it, Australia and certain parts of Europe now, they're utilizing the Maverick Enterprise with the 100 decibel audio system that they have available for that, for herding cattle and sheep, which I thought was brilliant. I mean, what the heck? They're all out on open land, nobody's around, there's mountainsides, this, that, and the other thing. Okay, you could sit on your porch and be like, all right, you know what, it's time for the sheep to come in, let's get these guys, and all right, we're going to spin it around over there, we're going to get the cows back where they belong, and everybody's happy. You don't have to pay a farmhand or whatever, or you just don't have to get up off your butt and go out there and do anything. So that to me, I thought that was pretty neat.
We have a member in one of the Facebook groups, and she has a huge ranch. Then she raises horses, and probably not fair for me to say her name. I don't think she'd want me to point her out, but she and I have talked offline a few times about what she does. She puts the horses out to pasture and does the same thing. Instead of riding around for an hour over all this land, she sends the drone out and finds them, and then she rides out and gets them for the evening and brings them back.
Right.
So yeah, a simple little thing like that is just phenomenal. I would have never. Of course, I'm not raising horses, so I guess I wouldn't think of that. But
no, but I mean, yeah, I'd love to chase the dogs around the yard with it.
I'd be willing to bet that the enterprise team at DJI had no idea that what they were developing would be used for herding cattle in Australia. That was probably the furthest from their imagination. They're thinking first responders, search and rescue, law enforcement, whatever. And then here's guys herding cattle with it. It's amazing.
I like it. I think it's a good idea. What do you got? Moving on?
Yeah, let me jump in real quick. Doug Mellon over here said back on our conversations about the Inspire versus the Phantom, he wants to see a Fanspire.
I'm sure if you email the right people, somebody might
see that. And Jeff, somebody said your audio's a little bit low, so you might pull that mic just a little bit closer to you or something there.
Okay, I'll try to talk louder. It's all I got on the computer.
That's well, just maybe pull the mic around a little bit closer to you or something. But anyway,
these aren't hooked up. This is XLR.
Oh, okay.
Not into the computer.
Got it. So what you got next, Tommy?
Next, unfortunately, is a little bit of sad news. There's a little bit of safety, a little bit of safety briefing that's going to have to go along with this, because apparently in Atlanta, a man got his drone stuck up in telephone power lines. I guess I don't know if he wasn't thinking or if he was just, holy crap, it's stuck, I got to get it, and in a rush or whatever, but the man used a metal pole to try to get his drone out off the power lines.
Oh boy.
Yeah. It's a tragedy. Tragedies happen, and it's horrible, and it sucks. But people, let it be a learning lesson. Unfortunately, obviously metal and electricity, don't. Even if you say, well, I'm not going to touch the wire, I'm just going to, no, electricity jumps, it arcs. It can, depending on the power that's coming to it, can, I'll tell you a little secret. I used to be in the Navy. I worked on the aircraft carrier USS Kitty Hawk, CV-63. We worked on the elevators on the sides of the aircraft carrier that bring the jets up to the top, to the flight deck, so they can take off and then bring them back down that's 440. That's what, 3-4 times what's running through your house. It's some serious stuff. I'm on a ladder and I tell the guy, yo, don't touch the thing until I say go. So I'm up on a ladder. Some officers, some pilot, some higher up. This is a hangar. The hangar's huge. Somebody else yells across the way a little bit. Well, he took it as me. Meanwhile, my hand's right next to where the power is coming from. He hit the switch. A couple minutes later, I wake up on the floor off the ladder. People all around me. My fingernails and hair are black, and I'm shaking. I don't know what the hell's going on, because the arc jumped probably a good 1.5 feet and hit me and blew me backwards right off the ladder. So don't use metal. First of all, if you got something stuck and you're not sure of what it's stuck in, leave it there. Call a fire department, call police. Figure out what's going on before that. And if you absolutely have to get it, God almighty, get fiberglass, get wood, get something like that. Also, if you see somebody doing it and you see them doing what, please don't touch them, because all it's going to transfer to you. Your muscles are going to contract. I just wanted to grab him and pull him. Well, now you're stuck to him and you're frying along with him. So it's a tragedy. It sucks. It's $1,000 piece of toy, whatever. Leave it there. It's not worth your life.
Or call the power company. Let them deal with it.
Yes.
Wow, that's really sad, man. It is no joke.
It is terrible. And it was hard to read, but it was like, wow, you know what? People need to hear this. Just for the fact that it's like, oh, well, I'm just going to go. No, just don't. Just call somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that it for you, Tommy?
I got more if you want
them. Well, I do have a PSA from Matt from Canada. There's some things that are going on. Let me play his little PSA real quick here.
Hello everybody, my name is Matt Matthews and I am the owner of Blackhawk Aeronautical Solutions. We are a commercial UAV company operating out of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I'm actually here today to talk to you a little bit about how Canadian operations has been over the last few years, but more importantly how things are about to change come June 1st. On June 1st, Transport Canada has issued some new legislation that surrounds the operation of commercial aircraft, in this particular case commercial drones, in very specific places within Canada. Prior to June 1st, folks that carry a special flight operations certificate have been able to operate in various classifications of airspace, providing that they have properly coordinated that with NAV Canada as well as the local tower for which they're planning on doing the operations. After June 1st, the new legislation basically creates two categories of operations, one being basic and one being advanced. Now the framework for it has actually been outlined very well, but it's been very concerning to a lot of commercial companies in Canada, primarily because in order to operate in an advanced classification, operators have to utilize a compliant drone. And up until just recently this week, there were 33 drones listed as being compliant on the Transport Canada website, and unfortunately, DJI was not one of them. The good news is DJI has just released a statement this week that basically has outlined 9 different DJI aircraft that will now be compliant when operating in the advanced category. Those particular drones include the following: the DJI M600 series, the DJI M200 series, as well as the version 2 series, the Inspire 2, the Mavic 2 series, the Mavic Pro, the Mavic Air, the Phantom 4 series, and the DJI Spark. Now, a lot of commercial operators are very excited about this announcement, primarily meaning that it allows the commercial operators to continue their use of their DJI equipment in advanced operations. One of the things we must remember though is they have not further explained the subcategories in the advanced operations as of yet. We're still waiting to see which drones will actually qualify. What that means come June 1st is we will be able to operate DJI equipment in controlled airspace. What we have yet to find out is whether or not we will be able to operate that very equipment less than 100 feet or over any operations. So we're all still waiting to see what will ultimately happen, if that list will be further reduced. As a commercial operator, this is very exciting news. We were all worried whether our DJI equipment were basically going to become nothing but a brick. And of course, like myself, there are a lot of commercial operators in Canada utilizing DJI equipment. We are very excited about this announcement. We're looking forward to continuing our operations utilizing DJI equipment, which is now on the compliant list. And this actually gives us a competitive advantage to some of the other companies out there, only because we know that a compliant operator will go through rigorous training and be certified to properly operate their equipment in controlled airspace. So with that said, thank you very much DJI for working diligently on this to get us this list, to get us these 9 drones on the compliant list. And we certainly look forward to continuing our successful careers in the UAV industry utilizing your equipment. My name is Matt Matthews. I'm the owner, operator of Blackhawk Aeronautical. Thank you for your time. Fly safe.
Did you guys know he's my brother? We've known each other for so long. We're practically brothers. It's pretty cool. I was joking with him about how many times he's going to say about. About.
When you go outside, you got to
Right.
talk about.
Anyway, that's good information for all of our Canadian friends. I know that a lot of the Canadian guys that we talk to all the time we're really stressing. Matt Matthews, another guy that's up there, he was like, man, this stuff's a brick now. All my DJI investment is just nothing but a brick. Can't fly this thing. So that's really cool that DJI came through for him. I don't know what you got on your head there, Tommy, but that's
St. Patrick's Day is tomorrow, Curtis.
yeah, it's tomorrow, not today.
Well, we're not doing a show tomorrow.
So
He's ready.
this was the news from Tommy Polo, I should point out.
There you have it, folks.
Polo Vision in the house.
Polo Vision News on the St. Patrick's Day tomorrow, folks.
All right, it's time for the Inquisition time. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our very special guest. I said, dude, you got to come on and be on my very first show. And he said, I will do it. And I love him and I thank you for doing that. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome none other than Jeff at PolarPro, which he always signs it. Every time I see him on Facebook answering a question, it's always Jeff at PolarPro. It doesn't matter that his name's already highlighted. At the end of it, he always put Jeff at PolarPro. And that's really cool, by the way. I think that's really great.
I always do that. So when I'm giving filter advice, at least the people know that, oh, this is coming from somebody who works there, trying to be a little more transparent than chiming in with like, oh, PolarPro filters are the best.
Right.
Jeff from PolarPro. Make sure everyone knows.
Good plug.
You know, and that's one of the things that when I first met you, I thought was just so awesome. It's so many other filters are in any company, actually. You don't ever hear the owner of the company talking to the employee, to the customers at that close of a level, and you've always been there for your customers. You've always been a supporter of the drone groups. And I just think that's amazing. But I got questions for you, buddy, and I need answers. All right.
All right, let's hear them.
We got crabs. What the heck is that?
Yeah. So I've always been pretty entrepreneurial, and I'd say that was probably my first little venture. I got an aquarium when I was like 12 years old and would always go to the store to buy little hermit crabs for that aquarium. And I remember one day like looking at the price, I'm like, man, $1.50 for like one of these little crabs? Like there's millions of them down at the beach. So I kind of thought that it might be a good business idea to start selling little hermit crabs that I collected at the beach online to other aquarium owners, and started my first business, named it We Got Crabs.
And how old were you when you were saying we got crabs?
That was I was 13. I don't think I knew the entire meaning of the phrase, but I thought it was funny.
All I heard was you were young, and this was before that you started PolarPro. So I was thinking maybe just a little bit older, and you did kind of know the meaning. So, but it was when I read that, I was like, I got to ask him about that. So let's get on to PolarPro. So at what point in time did you decide that how did you even come up with the idea of filters? I mean, what happened?
So I was back at UC Santa Barbara. It was my senior year of college, and I was on the ski team. So we were doing a bunch of skiing up in Mammoth and shooting with GoPros a lot. And that's kind of like right when GoPro came out and got popular. It's like 2011. And the footage was just so overexposed, so blown out. The processor inside that little computer camera couldn't handle that bright snow and the bright sun. So I kind of looked around and was seeing what like production crews used for like big DSLRs or whatever red cameras they were using. Saw they were using ND filters or polarizers. So I kind of looked online. I was like, all right, I'll buy one for the GoPro. Saw that there wasn't anything available, and then kind of just made my own, did it, put it on, and made a huge difference, made some for my friends. And then I was just sitting in class one day, and kind of that whole entrepreneurial spirit kicked in. I was like, oh, I'm totally going to have to build these and sell them. So I went home that day, built the website, learned kind of how to commercially manufacture them, because I kind of just duct taped a polarizer filter on for my first couple ones. And it's like, yeah, people aren't going to want to pay for duct tape and a polarizer filter. So figured out a way how to manufacture them and started selling them online. And that's how it started.
I regret doing this, but I mean, I was one of the first guys, well, not the first, but I was one of the first of the guys that started getting the original Phantom. And we were going on eBay and buying these little mounts, these little carbon fiber mounts that you would put underneath with the 4 little rubber balls that you'd put on there so that the camera wouldn't vibrate while it was going through the air. And we were buying your filters. Yeah. I regret selling that thing to this day. And I had your filters, and there'd be like a collector's item right now.
Yeah.
I mean, worth something? I don't know, but I mean, it'd be really cool to, especially now that I know you and I've known you for a few years. It's like that would be just really something cool to hang on to. How old were you exactly when you started this? And then how old are you now?
I graduated, so I was 22 when I started it, and I'm 30 right now. So it's been about 8 years.
You don't look 30. I can tell you that right now.
I know, nobody.
And I'm not smoozing you either. So when you so you talked about the packaging and you know you don't want to use duct tape. How has your product evolved over the years? And the reason I'm leading up to this is because Randy and I have had long conversations about your packaging, and just the flight deck was like amazing to open up. It was just go ahead. I don't want to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think kind of the evolution of the company all ties back into myself and then all the people that work here as well. So we all film, we're all photographers, videographers. We all had the Phantom 1 when it first came out. So I think it really is our products are reflected by our passion for photography, videography, and flying. So we would make these products and they'd work okay, but then we'd always kind of want to be like, yeah, we want to make it better. So the motto's kind of always been like, yeah, but how can we do it better? And that's just kind of the evolution of all of our products. I mean, if you looked at our very first filter next to like one of our new quartz line filters, you would just be like, there's no way that that's the same company. But we constantly innovate and constantly are just trying to improve, whether it's our products or products that are on the market that we are kind of unhappy with or think that could be better.
Yeah, Randy and I were both talking about the opening up the flight deck and just how cool it was, the way everything was just laid out perfectly. It harkens back to the Apple days, a few years ago when everything was nice to open up, and GoPro days when it was nice to open up. It was like, man, PolarPro has arrived. They got this stuff going on now. All right, so all right, another hard-hitting question. I hope you're ready. Take a deep breath.
Ready. Let's do it.
So apparently you were on this show called Shark Tank.
Ah, yes, the Shark Tank.
The Shark Tank. And you had a little conversation with a couple of guys there, and there might have been some things happen there, or maybe they didn't happen. How much of this do you want to elaborate on? Because I kind of know the story. You and I have talked about this, but a lot of people will say, well, he was on Shark Tank and got all this money, et cetera, et cetera. But I'll leave it up to you to kind of elaborate.
Yeah, so I went on the show. That was like, I think 2015. So it's almost been 3 years now. So the show, what happens is it films and then it airs. And in between that time, for me, in my case, was about 6 months. So we filmed, we got, I don't know if anyone's seen it, Mark Cuban and Robert Herjavec invested on camera. After that, it goes into due diligence where they like research our financials and everything and further negotiation pretty much. And between that time, it was quite a bit of time. So 6 months, that due diligence process was going on. And then the show aired and we got all this publicity. And by then, interest kind of faded from all parties. I was kind of like, well, we don't really need the investment. They were not super interested anymore either. So that deal actually fell through. But it doesn't really matter because we got the publicity from it, which was pretty much the main reason for going on the show. And the cherry on top was actually getting an investment. But by the time the show aired, we didn't really need any funding. We were already doing well and able to reinvest all of our earnings and profits to just as if we took on capital. So, yep. That's the story of Shark Tank, but it was a really cool and really fun experience. I mean, I have never worked really like on a TV production set, but man, just from like being a videographer and a photographer, like seeing the back end behind the scenes of all of that's pretty amazing how many people it takes to put something like that together.
We're kind of discovering that here. Something that I thought would be just really simple. Hey, we'll just throw this on the deal here. I'm kind of learning as we go. So yeah, no, that was some really cool information. Thank you for that. Randy, did you have any questions?
Yeah, well, just to piggyback on what Curtis was just talking about or asking you about, I would imagine that the publicity that you got when that Shark Tank episode aired didn't hurt you very much. It probably was a nice little bump and may have rekindled the public's interest a little bit. Am I wrong there?
Yeah, I mean, it was huge. It was a very large spike, and it's actually been kind of recurring because I think the show still reruns on CNBC. And someone actually messaged me about a week ago saying that it's on Netflix now, or Netflix or Hulu or one of those. So it's just constantly rerunning and constantly respiking interest in the brand. And what the funny thing is like the products that were on the show are now 3 years old, and pretty much it was like Phantom 3 products, and we had like the power pole for the GoPro. Both products we don't really even make anymore. So they always like email like, hey, where's the power pole? Or like, where's the Phantom 3 products? Like, we don't really make that. Like the stuff's way better than there was 3 years ago. So, but yeah, it's always cool to see the reruns and the rekindled interest from the new.
Yeah. I will say, I probably in one of these drawers somewhere in my room here, I know I've got some of your original stuff because I was buying the heck out of the filters for the GoPros because, like you were talking about, it was just always dealing with overexposure issues, and then obviously with the Phantom 1 trying to like get that jello out of the footage, and you know. Yep. So yeah, it's man, your stuff just hit the market, and it was something that everyone needed, especially guys like us, right? So anyway, yeah, I've got a couple questions for you. And so one of the things that I've noticed about you, you're pretty out there with your social media, and you go on these adventures. You have this obvious outdoor lifestyle and passion to be outdoors and to do what you do. So how does that influence like PolarPro as a company when their main guy is out there doing it? And then how does that influence things back at the shop?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's my passion, right? Like the outdoors, photography and videography. So I pretty much built a company around that. So I love photography. I love getting out there and exploring. And I think what that does is kind of what I was alluding to earlier is you get out there, you film, you see where there's like problems with either current products or even problems with your own products or like areas that you could improve it, and then bringing those ideas back to the office and acting on them. And the really cool thing now is over the last 5 years, it's not just me. So it's a team of 24 people here, and they all share pretty much the same exact passion. So getting out there, shooting, exploring, and then bringing all those ideas back into the company. And then additionally, it just extends beyond us even now into like our ambassador team, our pro team. So we just have this constant cycle of ideas of how to improve products, where we need to make them better. And that just continues to play into the evolution of our company.
We got a question in the chat group over here. William R. said, Jeff, can you address, and I know the answer to this, Jeff, can you address the social media myth that all filters are produced on the same production line and then rebranded?
Well, they're not. So, I mean, there is a limited number of glass factories. There's a limited number of aluminum factories, et cetera, but the coating technology on the glass is very different. So that's kind of the most difficult part of filter construction right now is making sure that ND coating onto the clear piece of glass is perfectly neutral. So at lower stops, like 2-stop, 3-stop, 4-stop filters, you can actually get away with quite a bit of variation in the transmission curves. But once you get to the heavier stops, that's where it has to really be leveled out. And that's where the process gets very, very challenging. So no, they are made by the same machine. So I guess technically they would be kind of made by, but what happens is it's the expertise on how to tune those machines and the factories that you choose to use. We don't own any factories that we make glass in. We hire out and contract out. I guarantee you that there are not any other of our direct competitors being produced at the same factory. But like I said, the technology is pretty much widespread with the machines. It's more so who's operating those machines and the expertise they bring into making sure everything's very consistent. I don't know if that answers the question, but if it doesn't, ask again.
It was really, really good. And I thought it answered the question excellently.
All right.
Brandy,
I got one. Yeah, one more for you. So you're obviously passion for photography. You're a videographer. You're also a drone pilot. What came first? Is the chicken and the egg. So did drones lead to your photography, or photography lead to flying drones?
For me, it was definitely photography to drones. So started with GoPro. So got mainly like growing up, like I always was making ski movies with little high 8 cameras, little tiny bins with the tape. But then GoPro came out, really got into it, started making products for that. Then the Phantom 1 came out where that GoPro was mounted to it. And man, I can't tell you how many Phantom 1s I've lost or crashed, but but yeah, so it was definitely the videography to the drones, but pretty much since Phantom 1 have been hooked. And I mean, I love flying. I fly pretty much any time that I can get out there and even get into the parking lot, test new products, make sure everything's good. It's just fun to fly.
I got one quick follow-up, and it's almost not really a question, but just want to get your vibe on it. Do you remember the first time that you put a camera in the air when you stuck that GoPro Hero 3, maybe it was a Hero 3 when the Phantom 1 came out, and it was like on just a hard mount little frame. It didn't even have, the H3 2D gimbal wasn't even out yet. It was just that little clear plastic frame, and you could adjust the tilt, right? Remember that?
Yep. Yep.
Do you remember the first time?
You set it and forget it.
Set it and forget it, man, and hit go, and then you were flying, right? Do you remember the first time you like pulled that footage off and you saw what it was like to see a camera from an aerial perspective?
It was epic. I mean, I still get goosebumps thinking about it. Like it was crazy. It was insane. Like I'm sure some of the guys shooting out of helicopters for ski movies and all of that stuff are familiar with like that feeling, but seeing that pulled off your very own SD card mine was at the beach. So we were shooting in Huntington Beach. That was our very first flight with it. It was completely angled incorrectly because we had no idea how to set it, but it didn't matter because it was such an epic and new perspective. And yeah, I remember that.
I did a similar thing. We have a tower clock in Tacoma, and I really wanted to get a video or some video of it. And I flew up there, and of course the angle was incorrect. And I flew by it close enough to get everything, but I had the camera pointed just wrong. But yeah, when you get that SD card out and you look at that footage, even though it was shaky and jello, it was like and that's when I was telling you I went on eBay and they had those two little carbon fiber things that were basically a GoPro mount, 2 carbon fiber pieces with 4 little balls, and then the GoPro mounted underneath that, and that got rid of a lot of the jello. So, innovation back at that point in time was just tremendous. Everybody was struggling, or not struggling. Everybody was trying to invent something new, Tommy, anything? St. Patty's Day. Anything from you, buddy?
I was the only one without a hat. I had to put a hat on.
Okay.
I wasn't wearing a hard hat. That stays there. But yeah, I had a few questions. I actually remember my first aerial perspective video too was from skydiving. So it was a little bit different, but it was neat because it was one thing to get your tandem video, but then to put a camera on your own helmet and jump out and then look at it when you got down. I was like, wow, I had somebody's foot in the frame, and it was just everything was just sky going this way and that way, but it was neat nonetheless. But it was one of them little high 8s one with the little film, little cassette. It was
nice,
great.
Nice.
But my questions are going to be a lot more basic than these guys because honestly, I don't have any filters at all from any company just because I only got this right around Christmas time. Actually, my wife got it for me for Christmas, so yes, it was Christmas time. And I'm still flying. My first real perspective was FPV, so it was everything 60 miles an hour going past me, and it was like, wow, holy shit! And then I crashed. But so as a noob to photography, but maybe a novice to flying, when I'm out with my Phantom and I'm not in real super like bright like snow and super bright sunlight or anything, but what's going to tip me off? What's going to raise the flag to be like, what's going on here, man? I need filters. How am I going to know?
So filters, one, are not necessary. So you really, in order to fully maximize the use of filters, it takes a lot of effort. So I guess the first thing we do is like when we're explaining this to a customer, is you've got photography filters and you've got videography filters. So photography filters, so if you're taking pictures, the most basic one's just a circular polarizer filter, and that's going to be probably the most easy to operate because you'll set it, send it up. It's going to reduce reflections. It's going to make the sky a little bit deeper blue. It's going to reduce a little bit of light out of the sky, which allows you to balance exposure on the ground a little bit better. So it'll give you a kind of bigger scene dynamic range. So, but that one's a lot easier to use than the video filters. So the video filters, a lot has to change. So the idea behind a neutral density filter for video is to allow you to get your shutter speed at double your frame rate, because when it's at this ratio, it's going to perceive motion the same way we perceive it in real life. So if you wave your hand in front of your face, you can see that there's some motion blurring going on. Right. Now, if you just send your camera up and shoot, it's going to be shooting at very, very high shutter speeds. So all motion is not going to have any blurring to it. So it's going to be very jittery. Now, the whole idea behind cinematography is it's called the 180-degree rule of shutter, and that's the shutter speed at double frame rate. And that's going to allow the video, the playback for your audience to mimic motion the same way that we perceive it in real life.
I see.
Now the calculations to get there get a little bit challenging because you're going to have to switch into manual mode, and that's going to take a lot of learning to go from not having any idea of what to use filters for to learning exposure theory, learning when to use each filter, and learning how to properly expose the scene. But actually, I've done a ton of videos on YouTube on this, on the PolarPro channel, so you pretty much would be able to learn all that, I'd say within an hour, hour and a half of watching videos, and we've pretty much got them all on YouTube. It's just a time commitment and then practicing it. So it's all about like self-mastery. Like that's my same with myself. Like when I first started shooting GoPros, like I had really no idea of what I was doing, and I really enjoy like self-mastery and like just becoming better and better and better at something. And a lot of, I think, DJI users and photographers and videographers now are also in that same boat. So now they're starting to like realize what ND filters are, and then starting to learn about the exposure theory and all that to refine their craft and to produce better videos and photos. Was that too long of an answer? Was that
no?
Okay?
That actually just made me just wanted to when are we done? I'm gonna go to YouTube and I'm gonna go learn stuff. Like I'm like excited now.
I should real quickly point out that one of our good friends in Norway, Stig Idesal, is putting together a whole tutorial series also for our show, and we're going to be talking about that, I believe, starting next week. In fact, before we're done here, or when we're done here, we're going to do a little tease that he put together. So, but anyway, I digress. Did you have another question?
Yeah, it actually kind of goes right into there. So it's like, okay, so now I watched the YouTube channel, a little over an hour, maybe probably watch it twice, and we'll figure an hour and a half, hour 45. But now I'm excited. I just went on Amazon. Where you have your own website, right?
Yeah.
We're going to the source. Anyway. No, I like buying from the source. Okay. I don't like it's Amazon's for like junk that you just kind of need, right? Yeah. But no, we're going PolarPro website. We're ordering a set of filters. Okay, now I got them. I'm getting the hang of them and stuff. Like, oh crap, this one fell in the dirt. This one's rolling down the driveway and I caught it. How is there like specific like care and maintenance, or like are they tough? Are they delicate? Do I got to treat them like wipe them off with little tissue papers? Because I don't know. I've never even touched one.
So filters are the ones we make, at least. I haven't really used many of the other brands, but the ones that we make, at least, like I was talking about before, is that coating process is very, very important because it's throwing on the ND layer. It's throwing on a layer of a couple layers of anti-scratch, anti-oil to reduce fingerprints. And those layers, as long as those are really good and high quality, they're going to make cleaning it a lot easier. You don't really need anything other than like a microfiber cloth. You just brush off the dust and then clean it with a microfiber cloth, and you're pretty much dialed. And the filtered glass is, like I said, at least the glass we make is very, very strong. We haven't seen more than probably 100 filters like actually shatter lifetime, unless they drop the whole camera with it on it. Like, yeah, then yeah, it's going to break. But you'd rather have your filter break than your whole camera. It's a lot easier to replace a filter. But yeah, no, the maintenance isn't too bad at all on our filters, and they're pretty durable. Like I said, I mean, we try to build everything for like outdoor photography, outdoor videography, for accidentally dropping it in the dirt, smashing your bag down onto the ground, like when you're trying to get the shot real quick. So everything we make's pretty durable.
I can speak to that as an end user. I've had a few of your filters fall out of my hand, fall out of a case or something like that. And I'll tell you, they're tough. They're really tough. And if you're very careful when you pick them up, because obviously if they're on the ground, you don't want to drag them. So if you pick straight up, blow them off, and then clean them, the right way, it's impressive. I unfortunately had an X5 on an Inspire, the entire Inspire with X5 fall out of the sky, and it destroyed the aircraft. And I was obviously using some PolarPro filters on that X5, and it didn't even shatter. I had a scuff on the filter, and I reached out to PolarPro and I bought just that one filter to replace it. And it's impressive, man. That thing fell out of the sky and hit the concrete, and it didn't even shatter the filter. So, I mean, lucky me, I guess. But at the same time, I didn't want to scuff on a filter that I'm using for professional work, so replaced it. But it's really impressive how tough these things are. Even though they're glass and whatever, they're still pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome. I like that. I've got it. My parents, my wife, everybody that knows me tells me it's like you got an eye for quality, and it's like I can't even afford the lifestyle I want to live just because it's like it's got to be the best. It can't just be knockoffs. No knockoffs. I want the best. So that being said, my last question is this thing that came with the Phantom that's no longer in production and all that stuff. It broke. That broke. So now when I put it on there, it's like one leg doesn't really hit all the way. I had a buddy at work 3D printed me one of these, but when that's on there, the thing it's doing this stuff. I have a like a hard shell backpack that I carry this around in. Now, I don't like this on there because I think while it's in there, there's a big empty spot underneath the drone. So it's Curtis showing me up here. Is that a PolarPro product?
Yes.
I see the pin on there.
There's the plug.
So there it is.
There it is.
Answer my question. I wanted to know what you had as far as something, stabilizations, protection.
When I got this, I knew Jeff had this. I threw that away and ordered this.
Okay, good. So when we're shopping on the actual factual website, we'll be looking for those too.
Yeah, we've got that one that Curtis has, and then we have one that's similar to the stock one that hits it from the bottom.
I thought I saw that because I already looked.
Yeah, we made that one a little bigger to fit our filters because the NDPL filters are a little bit longer because they have the rotating bezel on them. So we bumped that out a little bit.
Awesome.
Yeah, since the Inspire, I've always gotten the PolarPro filters, and that just made sense to go ahead and get that as well because I can leave the filter on. I'm lazy. In fact, I'm so lazy sometimes. I generally leave of course, I live up in the Pacific Northwest where it's cloudy and it's always rainy all the time, so it's not really a big deal. But I generally just fly with an ND8 on there. It's when the clouds totally go away and I've flown with an ND8 with one battery and I go, uh-oh, I need to change. But I always leave them on, so something like that is just awesome. Hey, we do have another question in the chat group over here. Let me see. Jeff, do you still have the PolarPro app that helps people in choosing the right filter? I remember hearing something about changes.
Yeah, so we do. It's actually something that has been, I would say, neglected over the last, probably year. We've been trying to figure out what we want to do with the app. It does work currently. It's this one right here. Mm-hmm. So at the very least, sometimes the weather API that we have chosen to go with doesn't work, and it's kind of out of our control and really crappy user experience. But at the end of the day, you can always get into the video filter calculator setting, and this thing will always work. So we do have it. There is a new version in the works, though. That's going to be a lot cleaner, a lot more kind of what you would expect from our brand. But yeah, so we do have it. It is on both app stores, Apple and Android. It's one of those things that we are definitely working on. We finally figured out what we want to do with it, and we have actually a new designer that's working on it right now. So we're excited about that. That's launching, I'd say probably like 4 to 5 months. It's a pretty complex build, but it should be a pretty sweet interface.
So I'm going to ask you this because I know everybody wants me to ask you this, and I know you're going to say I can't answer. So are there any new products that are not on the website yet that you would like to maybe share with us in advance or anything like that?
Well, Curtis, of course there's new products in the pipeline,
Right.
but not anything that I can disclose.
Correct.
But I can tell you there is a really exciting one. It's not necessarily a drone product. It's more of a camera product, but it's one that we have spent the last about year and a half building, and it's a really cool product, and that's launching early April. And that one is really exciting, but it's not related to drones. But if you have a DSLR mirrorless camera, you're going to be very stoked on it.
Most of the guys that even when they start flying drones, they gravitate towards a ground camera as well. You know, it's that exciting part we talked about earlier. The exciting thing about getting in the air and going, wow, this looks cool. I need something to go with it. So then we jump out and we buy the GoPro or we buy a DSLR or something like that. So you're servicing both markets there, and that's really awesome. Yeah, I kind of knew you weren't going to answer, but there were some guys in my ears saying, "Ask, ask, ask." So I had to ask.
Let me throw something at Jeff real quick. Jeff, what kind of DSLR does Jeff overall take with him when he goes out on his adventures?
Yeah, so right now I bring the Nikon Z7. So that's a new one we got. It's the mirrorless Nikon that just came out. I shoot all the YouTube videos with that. It's got a massive sensor on it. Shoots like 50 megapixel images. So that's my go-to, and it's nice and compact. I shoot Sony every once in a while. We've got pretty much every camera here at the office, but the Nikon Z7 is the one that I pick up off the shelf most often and take with me.
Good to know.
So one of the things I want to get you to do, Jeff, I know you have your own YouTube channel, and I know everybody would be interested in this. You guys need to do a tour of your offices and stuff, and just show off your other employees. I talked to you about this before. You know, it would be really cool just to kind of be a part of what you're doing and feel, you know, like we know you, the kind of thing, you know, and that would help.
Yeah. So actually, in that product that I was just talking about, the launch video, we just finished filming yesterday, and it's very much so. In here, you pretty much see all the engineers on the team. You see the office, you see kind of our design process and what goes into building a product, because it's usually a lot more than what people think. But yeah, so in that video, there is going to be a lot of that behind the scenes, kind of what the vibe is here, like what it's like, and see the whole team.
So the last I heard was you just got off a plane to come do this little interview with us, and we thank you for that. We appreciate it.
Yep.
Where's Jeff flying off to next? Because when I was looking at your Instagram, dude, you're freaking everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm passionate about like what I love traveling, I love shooting, and a lot of times this job, I mean, I've built it, so it takes me to a lot of cool places. Yeah, just landed on Thursday, and then Monday we go to, should be a really fun shoot. We go to Tahiti for 5 days.
Oh,
now everyone's like, oh yeah, bummer, right? But
you're going to suffer. It's going to be mosquitoes.
These trips are actually quite a bit of work because we're shooting 3 videos there. We're only there for 4 days on the ground. The itineraries are just back to back to back to back. But that's what I love. Like, I love shooting. I love exploring new places. So these trips kind of combine everything. So it's Tahiti, and then I'm back for 2 weeks, and then it's down to Australia, and then it kind of nothing planned beyond that. But usually the trips happen within like 2 weeks. It's like, oh, let's go here. So
awesome. Well, I don't want these things to run too long because I know there's some other live ones out there that I watch, other live broadcasts, and they seem to run a little too long for me. So yeah. There's nothing wrong with watching other ones. They're all out there. What the heck, you know? So let's wrap this thing up. Jeff, hey, I want to thank you for coming on our show, man. We really appreciate it. If there's anything you want to add, this would be your spot right here. We'll give the floor over to you, and you can tell us what you want to do.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Nothing to really add. Just appreciate everyone on the groups and forums supporting our brand. we all love you guys and appreciate your continued support. And it just allows us to create more new cool products, and we'll keep it up.
So yeah, one of the cool things about Jeff, like I said earlier, is Jeff is in these in all these groups, and he's talking to you guys. And if you have an issue or whatever, you may very well see somebody answer your question, and if it says Jeff at PolarPro, this is the guy who's answering it. Of course, now
he's right there.
Yeah. Now that I've said that, everybody's going to start answering Jeff at PolarPro.
No, it's good. I love it. Sometimes though, my responses are a little bit longer than if you reach out to support@polarpro.com, but you'll always get a response, I promise.
All right, so thank you very much, Jeff, for coming on the show today. That's going to wrap it up for us. I'm going to do a little tease here with Mr. Stig Idesol, and then we will see you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.
Hi, I'm Stig. In the next show, I'm going to explain some of the dark secrets of the triangle of exposure and show you how to use filters like Jeff of PolarPro's filters to adjust exposure and to help you make a better result when you're using your drone. Hope to see you then. I'll be back.